Alright, so Twitter Files Part 2 was released last night, and it's led to some pretty significant developments in the story as we understood it. Before I get into the new developments, though, I wanted to point out that there was some supplemental files released earlier on this week as well, because if you remember, on Sunday, Elon Musk had tweeted out saying that there was going to be new Twitter files dropping on Monday. And then Monday came about and he said, it's going to have to be Tuesday. And then Tuesday came about and we were all waiting for a while until it turned out that there was some more information on this. Before I get into that as well, actually, I've just been reminded, we do have some new content on the website that you should all check out for our premium subscribers. If you've got a silver membership, you'll be able to listen to the audio track done by the excellent Jonathan Crow on this article by Thomas Dowling. Yes, he's not been in the office for a while, but he does still contribute work to us, like these excellent articles that he puts out. I know that for a lot of people, Thomas can be a little bit Marmite, but you can always be assured that whatever he does write will be interesting and make you think and consider a perspective that perhaps you hadn't looked at before. So this one's about rentierism, the never-ending social plague. I have not been able to get around to reading this one just yet this morning, but as I said, I'm sure he's putting forward a very interesting perspective that might get your gears turning in just a little bit of a different way than usual. Anyway, let's get back onto it. So earlier on this week, I think it was on Tuesday, Matt Taibbi released this extra thread following up the original one from last Friday called Twitter Files Supplemental. And he was talking about, Friday, the first installment of Twitter Files was published here. We expected to publish more over the weekend, and a lot of people wondering why there's a delay, and now they can reveal it. And it's because on Tuesday, Twitter Deputy General Counsel and former FBI General Counsel Jim Baker was fired. Among the reasons was that he was vetting the first batch of the Twitter files without knowledge of new management. So what it seems like was Elon released all of the files to the journalists, but there was a go-between. And that go-between was the lawyer, Jim Baker, and we were all wondering at the time, after the New York Post and other publications had pointed out that the Twitter files didn't seem to have any mention of the involvement of the FBI in censoring some conservative commenters and far-right extremists, etc., etc. And we were wondering why that was, if Matt Taibbi was maliciously leaving it out on purpose, or if there was something else. And it seems that this was that something else, was that this literal former FBI General Counsel decided to vet any of the information that would make the FBI look bad, and that's what's gone on here. So over the weekend, we both dealt with obstacles to new sources. Barry Wise discovered that the name of the person in charge was Jim. When she asked what Jim's last name was, the answer came back Jim Baker. So the first batch of files both reporters received was marked Spectra Baker emails, and Taibbi points out that Baker's a controversial figure, been something of a zealot of FBI controversies dating back to 2016, from the Steele dossier to the Alpha server mess. He resigned in 2018 after an investigation into leaks to the press. So, for anyone who doesn't remember, Baker was a lawyer, general counsel, with the FBI, who was the one who received the intelligence from Michael Sussman, the Clinton lawyer, that was pointing to some kind of collusion between Trump and the Russian press, or the Russian Kremlin, where they were trying to point out that there may have been some telecommunications link between Trump and this Alpha server. Was it banking system or Russian bank possibly? Alpha server, either way, was supposed to be some Russian organization that Trump was using to filter information to and from the Russians, which, of course, after the Mueller report, we already knew it was all nonsense, but the Mueller report confirmed that it was nonsense, but Baker was a big part in that. So it's interesting how after the questioning in 2018, he decided to resign quite disgracefully. He ended up working in another high-level, high-powered position in Twitter. Always interesting how these people fail upwards, isn't it? Because these people are not hired for their honesty or their competence in actually abiding the letter of the law. They're always hired for their competence in skirting around the law to get what people in power want. So that's always the case with these people. But as a result of all of this, after they realised what had happened, Elon Musk has quickly exited Baker, who isn't working for Twitter anymore, so hopefully any new information that we receive from the Twitter files will not have had that filtering out anything that makes it look bad for certain public agencies, as well, federal agencies from the US. Interestingly enough, after all of this came out and Elon had announced that, we'll get more information out soon, if we go to the next one, Jack decided to stick his head up and proffer an opinion. That opinion was, if the goal is transparency to build trust, why not just release everything without filter and let people judge for themselves, including all discussions around current and future actions. Make everything public now. Thank you. Thank you, Jack, for finally becoming the free speech warrior we knew you always were deep down inside. So valuable to have your opinion of everyone's in this pressing matter. Good God. Shut up, Jack.
Yeah, look, there is the perception, I think, that Jack was riding a dragon which he could not control. And as we spoke about off air, that requires either the assumption of gross incompetence on the part of a man who has multiple successful businesses like Signal, Cash App, Squarespace, as well as Twitter, or it assumes massive cowardice. And I think that's probably the truth. But for him to then come out and try and tell Musk how to release this information when at best he was being yellow belly and caving to the political whims of Vijaya Gad and Yoel Roth, staggeringly hypocritical, and also the best place for you to have blown the whistle on how your team had become ideologically captured and weren't being honest to the American public would have been the multiple hearings that Ted Cruz staged with you, grilling you over it. You could have said it on camera, under oath. So I am interested to see
repeatedly claiming that you didn't shadow ban conservative figures. Yeah. Well, the information from Twitter Files Part 2 is going to show that that is very untrue.
I would be fascinated to see, and let's be fair, nothing gets done by the Republicans, let's be honest. I would be interested to see if they can get anyone on purging themselves under oath by lying to Congress when we now have the transcripts of their internal communications, which says, here are the actual individuals we have suppressed despite them not breaking any terms of service.
Yeah, I'm still excited for when Elon eventually releases all of the files to the public, because it's going to be thousands and thousands of emails and all sorts to sift through. But you know that there's going to be stuff that, not out of any malice, that Taibbi and Wise have filtered out just because they're trying to put this into digestible Twitter threads. Yeah. There's going to be extra stuff that we discover as we go through here that's going to be even more telling when all of these files are released to the public. Elon Musk, responding to Jack here, though, seemingly still giving him the benefit of the doubt, and I understand that, he's probably... I've had torch passed to me from Jack. Jack's the one who built all of this infrastructure, so he needs to respect him somewhat, but I do think he is giving him a little bit too much benefit of the doubt when he says, most important data was hidden from you too, and some may have been deleted, but everything we find will be released. And once again, even if it was hidden from Jack, he knew the signs were there. He was having congressional hearings about this sort of stuff. At the very least, he should have tried to sort out whatever was going on behind the scenes after the Joe Rogan Tim Pool grilling that he received on the Joe Rogan Experience. So Jack trying to do this big redemption arc thing, which he seems to have been trying to do ever since he left his position as CEO of Twitter, I'm just not buying it. There's no way you can convince me that Jack was anything other than either an incompetent buffoon, which given how successful he is, slightly unlikely.
Strained credulity, yes.
Or ignorant to the point of malice. But anyway, let's move on to the Twitter Files Part 2. Now, the first one was just revealing the obvious and clear political bias that was going on within Twitter. We received some information that we basically were already aware of. It was nice to have it confirmed. And this is a similar situation where the information is just confirming basically what we already knew, but it's good to have that confirmation. It's good to have screenshots of the files, screenshots of the internal documents that operate within Twitter, so that we can understand that we weren't being crazy. We were being gaslit when they said that they weren't shadow banning people. So I'll carry on here. So the new Twitter Files investigation reveals that teams of Twitter employees built blacklists preventing disfavored tweets from trending and actively limited the visibility of entire accounts or even trending topics, all in secret without informing users. So once again, we already knew this was happening, but now we get to see how, and we get to see just that they definitely were doing it. We're not being crazy. Twitter once had a mission, blah, blah, blah. Along the way, barriers were erected to stop people from getting information out there. Take, for example, Stanford's Dr. J.
Bhattacharya.
Bhattacharya, thank you.
He's one of the members that created the Great Barrington Declaration, which was a selective shielding approach to tackle the pandemic rather than lockdowns. He also worked with the American Institute for Economic Research, which I've written for before, and I believe he's currently working with Reform or Reclaim for a pandemic treaty for the UK for future to stop lockdowns.
Oh, really?
You could correct me on that, but
Well,
he's a decent bloke.
At the very least, thank you for preventing me from butchering his name. He argued that COVID lockdowns would harm children, which
Obviously.
demonstrably they did. I think there have been studies done showing that now. Twitter secretly placed him on a trends blacklist, which prevented his tweets from trending. And if you scroll down, we can see this must have been the interface that they were using to do this, or at least to show the current active incidents that were associated with certain accounts. And you can see there they had a tag for it, trends blacklist. This does remind me when I've been working for tech companies in the past as well. You have little tags that will apply different metrics and different algorithms to a particular person, and trends blacklist would just prevent him from getting trending. So
it's interesting as well for our audio listeners. It says recent abuse strike here, but there's also a strike count. The strike count itself says 0.
That is very interesting. I thank you for picking up on that. There's also the next one, the right-wing talk show host Dan Bongino. Thank you, Connor. You're really saving me today. Who at one point was slapped with a search blacklist. So trend blacklist says it all. Search blacklist, I assume if you just type in his name or his handle, it would not come up.
That's quite interesting as well, because purely speculative, he might have an anti-monopoly case on his hands, considering he's created parallel economy, which is an infrastructure that is the opposite to PayPal or Cash App. So if this was conducted under Jack's reign while at Twitter, and he was building and promoting parallel economy at the time...
Suppression of competition.
Exactly.
That's very interesting. That's a good one as well. I think some people are planning on... I know that James Woods is going to be planning...
Good on you, Hades.
Yeah, he's going to be planning on trying to do a lawsuit. So if they did some kind of class action where a lot of these people who are involved all get together and sue Twitter... well, I don't know if you'd want to sue Twitter now, or maybe sue the people
I don't know if you could
it.
retroactively sue someone when they're out of the... I don't know how the American law system works, but one would think that somehow their contract immunizes them from it from when they leave.
I guess,
let us know in the comments.
I guess we'll find out with how successful James Woods ends up being with this, because if he sues Twitter now, he's basically suing Elon, which would be counterproductive to say the least. They also had the account of Charlie Kirk set to do not amplify.
So Twitter's full of grippers, confirmed.
Yep. Twitter denied that it did such things in 2018. Vijaya Gad, then head of legal policy and trust, and why are all these people with foreign bloody names? Kayvon Bakepaw, head of product, said, "We do not shadow ban." Then they added, "And we certainly don't shadow ban based on political viewpoints or ideology." I mean, that's rich.
I do like how Charlie Kirk's account has a not suitable for work tag on it as well.
What is he posting? Has he been liking some dodgy stuff? I mean, I don't pay attention to Charlie
Kirk's account.
Kirk's
Do you remember when
account.
Ted Cruz on his official Twitter account
accidentally got horny on Maine?
Accidentally. Also, Dan Crenshaw was tweeting out links to a Texas-based Lady of the Night.
Oh, was he?
Yes.
Perhaps that was just in,
It was clearly his staffer, yeah.
It must have been just, the eye patch, visibility.
Yeah, Twitter needs to improve its accessibility policies, definitely.
Yeah, so what many people call shadow banning, Twitter executives and employees called visibility filtering, or VF. Multiple high-level sources confirmed its meaning. So this is classic double speak. We're not shadow banning, but if you'd asked them visibility filtering, they'd have probably had some kind of excuse up their sleeve for why it's not shadow banning, it's visibility filtering, yada, yada, yada. You got to love the corpo speak. And then think about visibility filtering as being a way for us to suppress what people see to different levels. It's a very powerful tool, said one senior Twitter employee. So that's just shadow banning. If you want to change the definition of the word, fair
We're just
play, but that's
ensuring
the same thing.
the health of the conversation, I'm sure, is the excuse.
Yeah, so it referred to Twitter's control over user visibility. It used VF to block searches of individual users, limit the scope of particular tweets' discoverability, block select users' posts from ever appearing on the trending page, and from inclusion in hashtag searches, all without the user's knowledge. We control visibility quite a bit, and we control the amplification of your content quite a bit. And normal people do not know how much we do, one Twitter engineer told us. 2 additional Twitter employees confirmed. So I like what they're doing here, which is they've not just gone through the information, they also seem to have done some interviews with the employees just to confirm the context of the information. So the group that that decided whether to limit the reach of certain users was the Strategic Response Team Global Escalation Team, or SRTGET. It often handled up to 200 cases a day, and I can only assume that there were probably some that were more, okay, is there some actual harm here? Although given that Elon's the one who cleared out all the CP,
and the Antifa accounts.
And the Antifa accounts.
Same thing, I suppose.
I can only assume those 200 cases were heavily skewed in one direction, but there existed a level beyond official ticketing, beyond the rank and file moderators following the company's policy on paper. This is the Site Integrity Policy Escalation Support, known as SIPPES, and I'm just going to call them SIPPES. And this secret group included Head of Legal Policy and Trust, Vijay Gad, Global Head of Trust and Safety, Yoel Roth, subsequent CEOs Jack Dorsey and Parag Agrawal, and others. And this is why I don't believe Jack's redemption arc. I don't believe Jack when he's coming out and saying, I had no idea about any of it. You were part of the team that organised all of the most politically sensitive decisions, as Wise states here. So what were you doing if not either happy to let it happen or just ignoring it like some incompetent fool or cowardly child? So your redemption arc just doesn't play well with me. And that, as she says, biggest, most politically sensitive decisions got made in that team. Think high follower account, controversial. Another Twitter employee told us for these there would be no ticket or anything. So you would, like for instance, Libs of TikTok here, it says, do not take action on user without consulting with SIPPES.
That's really fascinating. The reason is, it's the admission that they know that they want to suppress the account for politically expedient reasons. However, because she just posts videos that other liberals, including leftist teachers, have made themselves, she can't be accused of doxing, harassment, incitement to violence. So she doesn't actually break any of the terms and conditions. Instead, they have to selectively censor because they know that if they just censor it outright, it will look too bad optically. So they are, with SIPs, mediating between the ideological instincts of the people doing the censoring on the engineer side and the desires of the higher-ups to keep censoring but have a steady stream of censorship that flies under the radar of a skeptical GOP establishment. So they basically want to look like they have plausible deniability of where they can pick and choose for what she would be censored, but they don't want to blacklist her outright because they know it will look too bad.
Well, yeah, all the SIPPES team seems to be is just arbitrary bans, arbitrary shadow banning when it was convenient, when they'd just done something that a member of the team wasn't a big fan of. And this Vijaya Gad's woman and Yoel Roth, they don't exactly seem like well-adjusted people, shall I say. And one of the accounts that rose to this level of scrutiny, as we can see, was Libs of TikTok, an account that was on the Trends blacklist and was designated as do not take action without talking to SIPPES. The account, which the woman who runs it began in November 2020 and now boasts over 1.4 million followers, was subjected to 6 suspensions in 2022 alone. Each time she was blocked from posting for as long as a week. Twitter repeatedly informed Raychik that she had been suspended for violating Twitter's policy against hateful conduct, but in internal SIPPES memos from October 2022, after her 7th suspension, the committee acknowledged that Libs of TikTok has not directly engaged in behaviour violative of the hateful conduct policy. And you can see the email here, or the internal document here, where they just say, yeah, well, she's not done anything wrong per se.
But she makes it look bad.
Yeah, they say, based on the account's continued pattern of indirectly violating the hateful conduct policy by tweeting content that either leads to or intends to incite harassment against individuals and institutions that support LGBTQ communities. So they're saying, well, she's not actually doing it, but we want her to be doing it, and I kind of have this gut feeling that she's doing it, so we'll just block her anyway. That's obvious and clear. Committee justified her suspensions internally by claiming her post encouraged online harassment of hospitals and medical providers by insinuating that gender-affirming healthcare is equivalent to child abuse or grooming. And for the purposes of YouTube, I will make no further comment on that.
Yes, we have to, because we're on YouTube, endorse the cutting off of 16-year-old girls' breasts for their own good.
Stop right there. I will have to disavow anything that you say beyond that point. I cannot comment any further. Yes, compare this to what happened when she was doxed herself on November 21st, 2022. A photo of her home with her address was posted in a tweet that was garnered more than 10,000 likes. When Raychik told Twitter that her address had been disseminated, she said that Twitter support responded with this message. We reviewed the reported content and didn't find it to be in violation of the Twitter rules. No action was taken and the doxing tweet is still up, and that's one you should probably get sorted right now, Elon, because we know you're watching this. We know you're a secret fan. We know you're a gold tier subscriber. You can join in the Zoom calls if you want. We won't mind. So this is not just politically biased, though. This is actively dangerous. And incredibly, do you want to know what the mainstream response to this has been? I saw the most incredible tweet that I'm going to show us right now. Alejandro Caraballo, who I believe has had a few we've spoke about before in reference to run-ins with Libs of TikTok. Barry Wise confirming what we all knew. Libs of TikTok was given, are you ready? Special treatment.
Preferential treatment.
Special preferential treatment, despite her account breaking the rules several times. Despite Barry's claims, Libs of TikTok was removed from search on November 19th, and this entire thread is full of absolute leftoid retards talking about how, oh, don't you see the top of it has a special note that says people can't even ban her if she does break the rules. No, it means that special note means that they can do whatever they want, whether she breaks the rules or not. You absolute buffoon.
It also means that defer to the censorship team so we can censor her, but only when it doesn't make us look too bad, because they were censoring arbitrarily because she didn't actually break the rules.
I mean, honestly, the level of brain rot that's in this thread is incredible. But let's go back to the actually important thread. I just wanted to point that out, that if you will encounter people, if you mention this to them in public, who take that tact, who take that turn, and your duty is to laugh at them, ridicule them, and let them know how stupid they are. That's your duty. But back to the thread, if we carry on, in internal Slack messages, Twitter employees spoke of using technologies to restrict the visibility of tweets and subjects. Here's Yoel Roth, Twitter's then global head of trust and safety, in a direct message to a colleague in early 2021, saying a lot of the time it's used technicality spam enforcements as a way to solve a problem created by safety under-enforcing their policies. Under-enforcing their policies.
Right.
So if they say, oh, well, actually, this doesn't break any rules, I just get to go, well, I don't care. Do ban them anyway.
And that's an under-enforcement, as in we're not banning enough people arbitrarily.
Yes, he says it's not a problem per se, but it keeps us from addressing the root cause of the issue, which is that our safety policies need some attention. Remember, in subsequent interviews that he's given since he was fired from the organisation, he said that misgendering was really, really bad and deserved policy suspensions and bans and such for it. So this is, once again, these people are not stable. These people are not normal individuals. These are the far left extremists that have dragged our culture and civilization kicking and screaming into the realm of complete insanity, and it is our job, and no matter what you want to say about the guys on a personal level, Elon is doing good work by helping to pull that back to some kind of centre of normality. So we do appreciate that. 6 days later, though, carrying on in a direct message with an employee on the health, misinformation, privacy and identity research team, Roth requested more research to support expanding non-removal policy interventions like disabling engagements and de-amplification and visibility filtering. So they were just planning on making it worse. That's just what they wanted. He wrote, the hypothesis underlying much of what we've implemented is that if exposure to e.g. misinformation directly causes harm, we should use remediations that reduce exposure, and limiting the spread virality of content is a good way to do that. So he may make a good note of the word hypothesis there. It's just a guess. We just assume that this is what he does, and what he was actively asking for was studies and research done to prove the hypothesis right. But before we've got any confirmation that we're actually right, we're just going to go ahead and do what we were going to do anyway. It's hilarious. These people don't care. This is how power works. When you're in power, you do what you want, and then you figure out the reasons and excuses for it later.
It's an ideological feedback loop.
Yeah, of course. He added, we got Jack on board with implementing this for civic integrity in the near term, but we're going to need to make a more robust cause to get this into our repertoire of policy remediations, especially for other policy domains. And then that's basically the end of all the new information. She says, there's more to come in the story, which was reported by a bunch of other people that you can keep up with. The authors, we've got all got broad and expanding access to Twitter's files, and they say we're only just getting started on this reporting. So this is just part 1 and part 2 of something that is going to be carrying on for a long while, and I am very, very interested to see where it's going. It will be going back to Matt Taibbi for the next installment. They seem to be tag teaming this whole thing, so we'll see what else comes out, because
the Degeneration X of anti-leftist action.
Apparently so, and interestingly enough, we've got more. So Elon Musk amusingly tweeted in response to one of the tweets on Wise's thread this screenshot of Vijaya Gad saying, back in 2018 maybe, Twitter exists to serve the public conversation, enabling important discussions around the world to occur. She's missing out a lot of context, which is within this boundary, within the playpen that we on the radical far left Silicon Valley bubble say that you're allowed to. So always funny. We always knew that they were lying. It's just nice to have it confirmed for us. And here we go back to Yoel Roth as well. In the next one, we've got some screenshots of some things that he said. Yoel Roth back in 2017 saying that you are not the right kind of feminist. Backlash to yesterday's marches has begun. Did we learn nothing from this election? Yes, that person in the pink hat is clearly a bigger threat to your brand of feminism than all caps, because these people, once again, are not stable. They're off they're off the reservation. Actual Nazis in the White House. Urgh. Great. Very, very performative.
Delusional.
Delusional is to say the least, but we knew who these people were. I'm not surprised at any of the information that's come out. It's just nice to have it confirmed that these people, yes, are as evil as they always seemed. And then you get the responses from some of the people who were actively being suppressed by this, like, please pronounce his name for me again.
Jay Bhattacharya.
Thank you very much. Saying that he is still trying to process his emotions on learning that Twitter had blacklisted him. The thought that it will keep me up tonight. Censorship of scientific discussion permitted policies like school closures, and a generation of children were hurt. So yeah, we can actually say as well, the information being suppressed, you can put that on people involved in Twitter.
I think, unfortunately, Jay is assuming too much good faith on the part of the politicians who implemented the lockdown.
That is also true.
Rather than the types who were all too eager to be led by the nose from a scientific establishment staffed by literal communists like Susan Michie, and then be like Matt Hancock and give pandemic contracts to businesses you and your family have stakes in, just to enrich yourselves.
Yes, but I mean, they're all part of the same club, and he even continues to say, I'm curious to see what the role the government played in Twitter's suppression of COVID policy discussion. We will see with time, I suppose, and given that we already saw with the last one the government's involvement in Twitter, and now that we've not got Baker in the way, I guess we'll find out more of that. Libs of TikTok, after seeing what had been going on with her, she just said, all I can keep thinking, I must be doing something right for them to go to these lengths to censor me. Promise you, I will never stop, and for that, thank you very much for that one.
I'm doing my part.
Yes, we do have other journos who are completely salty about like this, like Matthew Iglesias. If you scroll down for us, we can see the tweet that... not this one. The one that Pedro is responding to here, where Matthew goes, I discovered the secret document, publicly available terms of service, that says Twitter sometimes limits the distribution or visibility of content, which, one, is one of those things that you should be made aware of if it's going to happen, and two, is not the exact same as the shadow banning that a lot of people were suggesting, where this was just done completely arbitrarily based along partisan political lines. So he's very salty about this. He's trying to say, like, oh, isn't it terrible when this is something that was out in the open in the first place? But scroll up for us, and we can see that what's actually gone on here, that Pedro is pointing out, is that Matthew was tweeting saying, before all this went down, if Elon Musk wants to give me exclusive access to internal Twitter documents, I'd be happy to do some PR for the world's richest man. If he really has the goods on the libs, probably a little bit more credible coming from me than Taibbi.
You
so
egotistical
he's salty.
twat.
He's salty that he got passed over.
Because he wasn't allowed to gatekeep the information, because he wouldn't have done an unfiltered version of the reporting.
No, of course he wouldn't. I'm just going to do I'm going to make Pedro proud here and do a quick physiognomy check on Matthew and say that he is not a trustworthy looking person. In fact, he looks like a soy estrogen-fueled gremlin.
You do know that he helps set up Vox, right?
That makes perfect sense, doesn't it? And Elon's been talking further about some more developments that are going to be going on with Twitter in the first place. So this person said, be interesting when some people learn that they aren't actually shadow banned, it's just that they don't say anything worth reading.
No, Shibutoshi's the guy that created Bitcoin, isn't he?
Maybe, I don't know. I'm not into the whole crypto thing for the most part, so I couldn't say. But Elon eventually responded to this tiny little exchange here, saying that, scroll down a bit for me please, John, tweets will show view count in a few weeks, just like videos do. Twitter's much more alive than people think, so now you'll be able to tell if you're being shadow banned or not, just by being able to see the average engagement that your tweets get as well, because the only feedback we have at the moment is how many comments you get, how many retweets you get, how many likes you get. We don't actually know how many views it gets unless you post a video. So it'll be a nice little indication. Was this tweet a banger, or was it just really bad? I
will correct myself as well. That isn't. He just has the same last name. So sorry for spreading misinformation.
And then Adam Kriegler tweeted this out, just saying, F you, Jack, when tweeting this screenshot of Dave Rubin saying, do you shadow ban people based on political beliefs? Simple yes or no will do. Jack says no. Computer said that was a lie. Sadly, you were not the father, Jack. It was a lie the whole time. And then Ian Miles Chung followed this up saying that here's the question for Elon Musk and Barry Wise. Were any political candidates, either in the US or elsewhere, subject to shadow banning while they were running for office or seeking re-election? And Elon just flat out says yes. And I'm not going to suggest that that might purely be on the Republican side, even though it's incredibly likely that it will either be entirely or 99.9% Republicans being shadow banned in that situation, given the information that we've already seen. But I'm not going to say it outright, but that does have massive implications for the elections of recent years. I'm not saying one way or the other, but it does have massive implications if Twitter was interfering with the information that gets out there. And I guess we'll just have to see what else comes out. I've been really enjoying seeing this all come out. And, if it does lead to negative consequences for these people, honestly, I'll be surprised because, like Jim Baker, sadly, a lot of these awful, awful people tend to fail upwards. Thanks for watching this segment from the podcast Lotus Eaters. I hope you're all having a very Merry Christmas. If you're interested in finding more premium content, you can find that on our website for a minimum of £5 per month. We've also got a new merch store that's very exciting, full of t-shirts and hoodies and mugs and all sorts that you can fit right in time for Christmas. If you'd like to find out more updates and developments from us, you can follow us over at Getter at lotuseaters_com. Thank you very much. See you again.